Welcome to the Mental Health Boot Camp podcast.
Woohoo!
This is the podcast where 4 psychotherapists, 3 of us Canadian, 1 of us American, serve you cutting-edge mental health knowledge. I am Dr. Ryan Howes, a clinical psychologist from Pasadena, California.
And I'm Dr. Brooke Lewis, a registered clinical counselor from Port Moody.
And I am Joanna Boyd, a psychotherapist who grew up in Coquitlam.
Oh. Chris Boyd, clinical counselor from Port Moody.
Welcome, everyone. We are here for episode 98 of the Mental Health Boot Camp podcast.
That's pretty crazy. That's nutto.
It is. It's wild that we've made it to nearly 100. As we've said before, we're going to pause at 100, take stock, take a much needed vacation. My goodness, it's been strenuous.
So I think our first one was summer of 2019.
No, 2020.
2020.
It was 2020? It wasn't 2019?
It was during, it was COVID. It was a pandemic thing.
Oh,
really?
It was July 2020. I could say that with confidence, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
There we go, 2020 still. Woo! That's wild.
Long time.
That is wild, yes. I think that first episode, the 2 of you guys were sitting outside and there were planes flying over and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
My goodness. So we've been through a pandemic together. Pretty cool.
Some would say we're not through already.
That is true. That is true.
Hope that we're getting through it. Maybe more pandemic than pandemic.
Yeah.
Remember back when the pandemic got going, we had our Instagram feed, right?
Yeah.
What's it called again?
Mental health.
Or keeping our together?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We had
we had little videos, right?
Videos and as well as daily tips in terms of what to do.
Yeah, some things that you could do. We did a gratitude run. Remember that? Everybody was posting gratitudes. 3, was it 3?
That's right. We took turns doing that. We rotated, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're just shoving mental health knowledge out everywhere from every.
Good. We needed a project to keep us sane, I think. And then Ryan had the idea because we were meeting on Thursdays anyway to record them.
Well, we were already meeting on Thursdays because we created the boot camp, right? So every Thursday we had been meeting anyways.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we've been doing this for so long that mental health boot camp program is not even a thing anymore. It's now offline. Not offline for a year.
Our last mental health boot camp Instagram post was November 27, 2020, and it was on procrastination, which I think is kind of funny.
I'm gonna get to the next post. I'm getting to the next post. I'll get there soon. I promise.
We never posted ever again.
That was it.
Moved on.
Yeah, it was the do, think, feel, and then do, feel, think, and then we had the zeitgeist.
Oh,
it was all. Does this bring that back? Yeah. Anyways, this is taking me back a couple years.
Some good info on
that. I think it looks pretty snazzy. Maybe we should get back to that.
It was
sure.
Nice. Thanks for trying to be supportive, Joe.
Yeah. Sure. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's great. Yes. It's been a long haul. We've covered so many topics, so many mental health topics and kind of mental health adjacent topics.
Yeah. Every topic. We just have a couple more to go. And we've done it all.
One more. Actually, tonight is the last topic, like ambush night. And then next podcast, we're doing a book club. And then we're going to do a reflection.
That's right. We're going to have our grand finale. And we're dressing up and we're inviting everyone else to dress up as they listen, I guess. I don't know, or watch the YouTube, whatever they're gonna do. Dress up on our last night of our podcast. We're gonna be dressed like I'm gonna dress in my prom tux
Well, I hope so. Do you still have that?
somewhere. I'm sure it's around somewhere.
It's an incredible tuxedo. That night just got a whole lot better.
I know.
Yes. My prom tux, it was an orange corduroy tuxedo with a lighter orange frilly shirt inside, and I had a metallic green bow tie and
Oh.
cummerbund. It was amazing.
Wow.
I think we need to see it.
It
In
was great. Well, it was a long time ago, but it wasn't so long ago that was in style. It was kind of an ironic dress up for me. So I was having fun with it.
It's great.
Yes. But we're gonna dress to the nines. That'll be great. So yeah, we've covered, I guess this will be our 98th topic really here.
Yeah.
And anyway, I guess we'll reminisce later on. We're saving that for episode 100, right?
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had a good mix of everything.
A lot.
I don't know how many books we did total, but again, I guess we can reminisce at some point.
Oh, we can look back and count. A good number, I think.
Yeah. We've had a fair number of books.
What was the first one? Was the first one Together or The Sibling Effect? I think it was Together. Or was it Together?
I think it was Together. Yeah. Was it Together? I think it was
There
her
was
favorite.
Black Swan or the Black Swan thing too.
Oh, yeah. That might have been the first one.
Yeah.
Read the book.
The final book, the one we're going to talk about next week, just to remind anybody, is called The Gift of Therapy by Irvin Yalom, a wise psychiatrist who's been at this for many, many years. And it's a book for young therapists, but or any therapist, but and their clients, really. It's like it's a wonderful read, a lot of good tidbits and nuggets, whether you're a therapist or in therapy or not. It's really a great little read. So we're going to talk about that next week.
Yeah.
Or next time we meet. Yeah.
Those who haven't started it, you should start it. I don't know where everyone's at. I'm about a third of the way through, maybe close to a half.
Okay. Are you getting a lot out of it? I guess you can't tell me yet. All right.
Not gonna tell you.
Not gonna tell. Okay.
It's interesting though, because I have read it before. Because it's one of those books as a therapist. I would venture to think most therapists have a copy of this book or have read this book at some point in their training.
Yep.
And I think I've read it a few times, so it's always interesting to read it again as you continue on your own journey as a therapist. You're going to pick up different things at different times. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I'm actually reading that along with another one of his books called Creatures of a Day, where it's like vignettes. It's a bunch of little stories from his career as a therapist, where he disguises the identity of the patients that he has, but he kind of tells the stories of what they encountered together. And I think there's a lot of existential themes in this. He's known as an existential psychiatrist anyway, but I think every story that I've heard so far, there's some sort of a death anxiety and all of that. And it's really great. He's such a great writer. Wonderful stuff.
Cool.
So anyway, Herb Yalom, next time we meet, we'll dive into that. It'll be fun.
Is he going to join us for the call, Ron? Have you reached out to him recently?
I haven't reached out to him in a while. I kind of would feel a little odd doing that. I think he's 93, 94 years old now.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And this book is older, so in one of the chapters he discloses his age at the time of writing, which is 70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's wild.
It is wild. It is wild. He's been around a while. He still does. I've heard that he's been at events and various speaking events and stuff within the last year or so. So he's still kicking.
Wow.
He put out a book, I think, a year and a half ago, about the death of his wife, which is pretty wild. Anyway, we could talk more about him next time. But
Yeah.
Irv Yalom, I don't get your hopes up. I don't think we're gonna be. I don't think Irv Yalom's gonna pop in here at 9:30 on a Thursday and be like, "Hey, yo, what's up, everybody?" I don't think that's gonna happen.
Let me impart my wisdom. No.
Yeah, I don't think so. But that's fine. But we still have material to get to tonight.
Let's do it.
So for the final ambush,
Should write it out.
this means that the ambush is that
That's funny.
you're just writing it out now. All right, I'll explain it really slowly then. Let me tell you about the ambush.
Okay.
The ambush is when
That's great.
only one of us, Brooke, knows the topic, and the rest of us don't. So Brooke is sending it across the border right now, all the way down here to Pasadena, California. And here we go. Oh my gosh, this is a throwback. We haven't had one of these in a long time. But Brooke is sending us a mail bush.
Oh,
What a twist and a turn my goodness. So one of our listeners, some of you may have guessed who that listener is if it's a mail bush that I have access to, has sent an email and with a topic and some questions. So the topic is one that we have done before, but maybe we could revisit the topic and with a different focus. Are you ready? I will read the email. It's a little bit long, so bear with me. Not long, but longer than, our typical ambush question. So the topic will be on friendship. So actually, friendship was our 9th episode, so many, many episodes ago.
Yeah.
And this listener said, I had the idea because of listening to a different podcast where they were talking about how in dating and relationships, there are some social rules. You date for a while to determine if you like each other, and eventually you make a commitment. Sometimes you grow apart or somebody mistreats the other, and you make a decision to end the relationship, but both parties know what's happening. In friendship, there is no such thing. One person could really want to deepen a friendship, and there's no socially typical way to find out if the other person feels the same. One person could want out of a friendship, and there's no social norm for breaking up with a friend. I feel like there is a lot of advice on how to meet people, but not a lot about how you move from friends to friends with a capital F. People can have a lot of acquaintance type friends, but still be lonely. How did the 4 of you know you wanted to be friends beyond seeing each other at the conference? Who initiated staying in touch? How did that feel for the others? Has it taken effort to stay connected? Has there been discussion about the commitment you've made to each other to connect once a week? And this person says, I think that the friendship we have, like the 4 of us have, is very cool, and that listeners could learn from hearing how it came to be. So friendship, but yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Of a deeper
great
another spin on it.
Well, Joanna and I have known each other since 1986. We became friends just a few years ago.
I know, it's really new friendship. I don't know if we're at the capital F yet, but we're getting there.
Just for listeners who do not know, they are siblings. Yeah.
Okay, so would your, as part of the mail bush, would the the writer slash listener like us to comment on this, on those kind of social norms about friendships as well? Like, how
I
do
think
we kind of, how do we move into and kind of formalize a friendship, and how might we move away from that? I think that's kind of an interesting topic, right?
It's a
yeah,
very interesting topic.
yeah.
Like,
How do you strengthen the relationships and
Mhm.
friendships? How do you maintain them as an adult? And then how do you terminate a friendship? When is time to terminate a friendship? How do you do that if you need to? And then, yeah, just I guess a little bit about how did that work for us?
yeah, no, interesting point. Because you're right, in relationships, there are some guidelines there in terms of what to do and how to respond, and there's a natural progression of that type of connection. But in friendships, it's a little more subjective, isn't it?
It's interesting as you're talking about that. I think of, like, I've had kids who were, kindergartner age at one point, and first grade and that kind of stuff. Kids who are that little, they're very blatant about that. They'll walk up to someone and, will you be my friend? Yes, I'll be your friend. And then, well, you're my best friend, but you're my second best friend. You're my third best. Like, they're just very clear on kind of the
Yeah,
hierarchy that goes along with that. And then,
yeah,
you're not my friend anymore. We're not friends anymore. They just put it out there. But
yes,
I think as we grow and mature in some ways, I think some of that gets sort of buffed out, and but therefore it becomes more ambiguous. People not really sure. Well, how do I stand? Where do I stand with this person? And the idea of telling someone, hey, it's been really fun to get to know you, but I really don't want to be your friend anymore. That's not a common thing we hear among adults or even teenagers anymore, or these days, right?
I feel like kids are
Oh,
not
Joe, you
egocentric
froze up.
anymore, and they're a bit more aware of the world.
You
Oh,
froze up for a
you
second.
guys
Kids,
froze for me too. Sorry. I think kids reach an age where they're less egocentric, right? So I feel like when they're at that age when it's just so simplified, then all of a sudden I think they're more aware of the world and relationships. And kids hit a certain age where, I don't know, they're aware of like kids liking other kids or what's cool and what's not cool. And they start to actually think that, hey, maybe I gotta look at myself in a different way. I don't know. There's an age there. I don't know. I feel like it happens maybe around age 9, 10, and then into middle school. Middle school for us, grade 6, 7, 8. But
You
things
know,
change.
I do think it kind of carries on in the teenage years, though. Like, there's a
Oh
lot
no, I mean like starts and then continues on.
continues on. Yeah, there's a lot of. I said a client the other day. She was talking about in grade 9. She had this friend who she was very close to, and one friend's like, "I just don't want to be friends with you anymore." Just flat out mentioned that, no context at all. Other clients talk about their experiences more recently in high school and how there's a constant drama, right? And then there could be a disagreement of some kind, and then blocking that person becomes a thing. So I guess if things go sideways, especially during that emotionally tumultuous time, I guess like the teenage years, maybe you're more aware of where you stand with friends.
and I think then that impacts your adult friendships, right? You might be more hesitant to get close to people, or it impacts trust
Yeah.
as
Big time.
well, right?
Oh yeah,
So
a lot of people still have a lot of insecurities there
yeah,
later on because of how up and down that was in teenage years. But maybe also because that's you see these people consistently. A lot of these friends, you see them hours each day, so some of it might be proximity, right?
I'd be
yeah,
curious for, oh, I'd say I'd just be curious for, and Ryan comment away, but just for the sake of answering the questions that our listener has kindly put together, is we talk about adult friendships and at what point do you know it goes into a capital F friendship, or how do you do that? Yeah, because I think that's adults you hear all the time. It's hard to make friends or it's hard to meet different people.
yeah.
So
Well, maintaining the friendships, right? Because you might have some friends or acquaintances as an adult, but I think the definition, or not definition, but what an adult friendship looks like to me is different than what it looks like as a teen or a child.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I can see that. I have a few friends that are very, very long term, one my entire life. And so just looking at how our friendship has progressed, obviously we're still very close, but really I see her once a month. And I would still, but emotionally, like I consider this, yeah, a very close friend. And so I think that's part of it too, is defining like what are you looking for in a friendship, for a friend with a capital F? What does that look like? What's the expectations or your idea of that? How often do you like expect to be talking, or is it just effortless invitations with each other? Yeah.
But what do you mean by capital F, by the way? Like, how do you quantify that? Just a really close friend, like a friend that you see on a regular basis, or is that
Exactly.
someone you feel close to?
Exactly. I don't know.
Oh.
And that's where I think we have to kind of start. And different people might have different metrics.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that either. I guess I take it as like it's less acquaintances or people you might see in your outer circles, and it's someone you're in regular contact with and you hang out one-to-one. I think a one-to-one, or like it's not always in a group. Like I feel like there's some extra element of closeness and effort on each part.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see it. I don't know, but I feel like it's open to interpretation, obviously.
Yeah.
That's a good point there, Joe. Yeah, I guess we're talking about a lot of things, but this is a good starting point here. Like what designates someone as a friend, and there's other categories of that, which I'm sure people have debated for years, but I do think there's something qualitatively different from someone that you hang out with in a group versus someone you will hang out with one-on-one. Like, they can all be friends, but if you're going to spend time with someone one-on-one, let's you and I grab dinner together or go for a walk or something like that. That's a level of intimacy that I think is greater. And I think that's what we're really talking about here, is levels of intimacy, right?
Yes.
How much are you willing to disclose? How vulnerable are you? How much are you wanting to kind of share back and forth? And there is this sort of ongoing, at least in the early stages, this sort of a test of like, is it okay for us to go here? As we talk about how to deepen friendships, right? Like, can I tell you this level of information? Can I share this level of vulnerability with you? And you share that back. And there's a dance that goes along with that, isn't there?
Yeah, there seems to be. I wonder if there's some gender differences there too, though, because I know some guys who would consider themselves close to other guys and may not reach the same depth of that definition that you had there in terms of vulnerability or sharing more information, but there's consistency there. And maybe there's shared interest, and there's trust, there's dependability, right? Or maybe shared sense of humor. Someone just kind of you kind of feed off each other's energy and you have fun.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an element of it as well.
Yeah, good point.
Absolutely. And I can think of groups of friends that I love to be around, and guys, if it's all guys, there's the funny guy and the one who's, maybe takes the leadership role at times, and all these different roles that people take. But if I were to think of, I guess friend is maybe just too narrow a term. Maybe we need like 4 or 5 different words for kind of the various degrees of friendship,
Yeah, the types of friends, yeah, for sure.
Here's the person I'm willing to cry with and spill my guts to, and maybe impose upon, and like really share everything with them, and vice versa, take all of their stuff too. And the person, maybe it's more of a little less deep, but might talk about some more significant beliefs and ideas that we have, and then people were just there to have a good time. We just have a lot of fun together, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure. So I guess how do you gauge that, or how do you navigate through those relationships? You know, it's a good question.
Or if there's someone that maybe you're hanging out and you do have a lot of fun together. How do you, and you would like that friendship to grow, how do you grow it so that it does become, a person, like kind of moving up the rungs of emotional intimacy and friendship?
Yeah.
But really, I think, Ryan, you touched on that, because that's going to come with time and a little bit of that dance of vulnerability and spending time together and shared experience. And yeah, it's not going to happen quickly.
For
It's not
sure.
going to happen quickly, but I've also found that, and this is both clinically speaking and personally speaking, that sometimes it actually helps to just be explicit about that and just say, hey, someone asked me, hey, how you doing? And I might say, you know what? I've actually got a lot of stuff going on. Do you mind if I share that with you? Is that okay for me to kind of open up? And
Yeah.
most of the time they're going to say, yeah, sure. But I think it could feel a little awkward for me and maybe for them if I didn't, and I just spilled my guts without making that little bit of an introduction to it, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, okay, we're agreed that it's okay for me to open up a little bit more. Well, here's what's really going on. I might share a little bit more. And then even with that, I think with every new step of vulnerability, every deeper level of vulnerability you go, there's a bit of an of an evaluation. Like, okay, now is the other going to reciprocate, or do they seem comfortable or uncomfortable with that? I mean, you're kind of testing the waters all the way to the deepest levels, right? And if you get the sense, if I spill my guts with somebody, oh man, I'm feeling all these feelings, or really worried about this, that, or the other, and I get a sense that they're not interested, not very responsive, maybe feel a little awkward about it, and I'm going to rein it back in and say, okay, cool, we're not that level, or you don't want to go there, and that's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Anyway,
No, it's
I
good.
don't have a step by step on this. I'm just thinking of ways that may have worked at times, or mechanisms that kind of seem to be in place when people want to take their relationship to a deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can also work like pointing, like asking someone else about how their day's going, or
Yep.
hey, I noticed that you're off the other day. Is everything going okay? Like, so talking a bit about yourself, I think that sets a good tone there, but also asking those questions, because a lot of people don't, right?
Yep.
They don't want to pry, but obviously you don't want to ask anything too deep and too quickly. But I think you can do that gradually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But,
I guess what I'm also saying here is that it's going to take a level of risk. I
Yeah.
don't think there's a purely safe and guaranteed way to deepen a friendship. I think there's always going to be some degree of risk, and if you want to have a deeper level of connection with somebody, and this goes with intimate relationships as well as friendships, there's always going to be a level of risk that you're going to have to face at some point.
yeah.
It's whether that's asking someone out on a date, or it's taking your group of friends, and you've really enjoyed your group of friends, but saying, you know what, I'd like to get to know this person a little bit better, and going up to them and saying, hey, we have a lot of fun together. Let's hang out sometime, and let's go grab a bite to eat next week. What do you say? That's a risk. You're putting yourself, it's a vulnerability, and you're putting yourself out there, and you could get shot down.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
but oftentimes, without that risk, you're not going to have the reward of deepening that relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point. Even if you back up a bit, like I'm fortunate to meet a lot of people over the years, good people. And often there's a bit of synergy there. You may appreciate someone's humor, or their values or interests, whatever it might be. It's some compatibility. So often, say, hey, we should go grab a coffee or grab a beer after work. If it's a work situation or someone that you meet randomly, invite them out to often to a group setting that can be pretty non-threatening.
Yeah.
So trying to initiate some more contact there. Sometimes you have to be a little persistent, not overly persistent, but just throwing something out there to see if they're interested, and and just increasing time to spend together, right?
Absolutely.
And then I think at some point there's that dance that's been note of, right? Then they're going to show interest. There's a mutual interest and effort on both parts to build that relationship, right? Like if you're persistent and the person doesn't kind of, you know, there's a dance there. So there's at one point where, oh, they're reaching out, I'm reaching out, we're enjoying our time together.
Yeah.
You
Like
kind of
that,
know.
like that David Linsky guy who was on he's been on our podcast before. I used to work with him. I like this guy. He's got a good vibe to him, and we have always interesting conversations. So I think I was pretty persistent. Like we should meet up sometime. We should go for a drink. He shot me down 4, 5, 6 times, but eventually he came out. We hung out, and we're kind of friends. So
Success.
yeah,
Yeah.
we should get him on the call and see
Yeah.
what he thinks about this. But yeah, you're right though. Reciprocated, and then eventually it kind of goes back and forth. It's not always the case though. Sometimes within a friendship, someone takes on a bit of that initiating role. Like I can think of a couple friends who I'm very close to them. I consider them extremely close friends, but I initiate probably 80 or 90% of contact, and I've just come to accept that they're busy and maybe they expect me to do it, or maybe I'm pretty good at that. I don't know, but so you kind of have to gauge it the more you get to know them.
But I guess it probably didn't start out that way though, Chris, right?
Maybe
Because like
That's a good
because
point.
because now like you're like, yeah, I initiate, but I've learned that because they might have kids, or I've just learned over time. But you're talking about friends that you've known for probably a long time, and at some point when that friendship started, there probably would have had to be this transition, and a
That's
bit more of that reciprocity.
yeah, these are very good friends, right?
And long
Yeah.
term.
Long-term friends.
Yeah, so that's
Right.
And
when you first started, it was probably a bit more back and forth.
that's right. Yeah, most likely.
But there is something to be said for the other piece there, which is, and then, oh gosh, I think we mentioned this in episode 9 when we were talking about friendship, which is, I've certainly had clients who will come in and say, "Gosh, I really, it's such a drag for me because if I ever want to do something, I always have to be the one to initiate, right?" And they're like, "Why doesn't any of my friends ever initiate with me? It makes me feel unwanted or like they don't care, or why is there not that reciprocity?" And a few times as we dissect that a little bit and kind of talk about the nature of those friendships, it's because their friends view them as the leader. They're they're just waiting for them to take the lead because they always have. And so it's not that they don't want to hang out or that they're not looking forward to it or they don't value their friendship. They just kind of are in a leader follower role, and they kind of say, "Oh, you're the one who always brings us together, so great, I'm here whenever you want me to be." And so there can be some misperceptions of how that power dynamic goes. Some person might feel like they're being left out because they have to call everybody. Other people look at them as being the leader because they have to call everybody.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you might be misinterpreting what's happening there, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when groups have been together for a long time and they're talking, celebrating each other or something, someone is often identified as the glue. You're the glue who brings us all together. You're the one who's always, collecting the group. And that's a cherished place. That's an honored place to be. Like, you're the person who is always at the center or whatever. And you never know, that person might feel like, why does no one ever call me to hang out?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess that there can be some things to be aware of, though. Like I know there are some friends who it really seems like what you're putting out there is not being reciprocated back. Like maybe the same amount of effort's not being put out there. Like maybe you invite them out, but they can never make it out, or there's reasons why that might be. Maybe there's busy. So I'm not saying it's necessarily malicious. Maybe you're just kind of drifting apart a little bit.
Right.
So on the drifting apart, how do you know when a friendship is over? Have you ever had to do a friendship breakup? What does that like? I mean, can you imagine worst case? I'm sure there's a comedy movie about this. There must be. Like if you decide to make friends with someone and now that friend it's not the right fit as a friendship, and how do you get rid of it? How do you end that friendship? The other person ends up really liking you, and you're like, ooh, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of movies about this, and I can't recall any by name, but I can think of a lot of comedies from 20 years ago that are about this exact thing.
Yeah.
Actually, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is one that comes to mind, you know.
Totally.
You know,
is that one too?
They come together, you know. Steve Martin's like, yeah, cool, let's travel together, this will be fun. And John Candy's nice at first, and then John Candy turns out to be a little bit annoying and needy, and he's just trying to get rid of him, and he's very blatant about it, right? Just leave me alone. Of course it has a good ending, but yes, I think this is a common dynamic, Brooke. And I go back to how in kindergarten it might have been easier just to say, you're not my friend. But in adulthood, you know, the whole, we try to send more subtle messages sometimes if we want to not have a friendship. You know, the ghosting, and you know, just always being busy, or hey, love to, yeah, call me sometime, and really not making any concrete plans, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that for sure as adults. And I think it comes from may come from a good place. You just don't want to have that awkward conversation, or you don't want someone to feel bad. But I guess that may still happen just based on the actions or inactions, right?
Yeah.
But it's tough though, because you're gonna have friends that you see maybe weekly or every couple of weeks, or at least you contact, texting, whatever. You also have friends you may see once a month or once a year, and you may consider them all friends, but you can't see everyone or text with everyone every single day, right? So you almost have to, you know, everyone kind of has preferences in terms of who they want to connect with the most, right?
Yeah, and I think that's going to wax and wane through your life. I feel like it's very common for when people have children that they become very close with their children's friends' parents, right? All of a sudden, there's a whole new circle there. Or if you move, and then your neighbors, and you may not be as close to your old neighbors anymore, or new jobs or whatever. So it's going to change.
So which is interesting. Yeah, so you might have someone you're really close to and you saw on a regular basis, but life circumstances shift.
Yeah.
And their time and energy may shift as well. So I guess that might be a sign if you're trying to come up with a time to meet up, and they're not able to commit, or there's other things that keep on popping up, then be patient with that, I guess, for a while, but you may have to allocate that energy to someone else.
Yeah, I think with friendships, like, for the vast majority, if a friendship is ending, we want it to end on good terms. Like, where somebody says, hey, are you still friends with Ryan? Like, have you guys seen each other? And if it's been a long time, to be like, actually, no, haven't really connected, and not sure what happened there. Nothing bad. Like, we're on good terms. Just haven't really talked to them, haven't caught up with them. I feel like that's how friendships eventually try to end, right? Like, everyone's on good terms, but you just haven't seen them in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta say though, I really wish there was a different. I don't have an answer to this, but I wish there was a different mechanism for that. I mean, even based on what we were talking about last week with other endings in life, right? Like, there's something, I've always had a problem with the ghosting and the just kind of the fade away and all of that, but I also can understand how you know, a really explicit breakup could be pretty painful and difficult for people as well. I guess I wish there was a different way for this to happen. You know, if someone could just say, you know, I mean, and I think something like this does happen. You know, hey, you know what, I like you a lot. We've been together a long time. We have a lot of great memories, but you know what? My interests are kind of different now, and I do have this other group of friends that I hang out with, and I just don't think we're going to be hanging out that much anymore. You know? which
Yeah.
Ooh, friendship breakup.
Oh, yeah, but that, like, if only that did happen more. It's so interesting that it doesn't.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So you're
Exactly.
saying that's better than just, oh, I'm sorry, I've been, things kind of slowly.
I guess I tend in so much of my life and my clinical work to tend towards the explicit and the, assertive and the
Well,
clear, the clarity. Because I think oftentimes with the ghosting, at least one of the people is in the dark for a while,
exactly.
They're
That's
like,
what
what happened? Are we close, or are you really just busy, but you want to hang out with me, or do you not want to hang out with me? There's always that question from some people there, right?
and then it feels a little bit like gaslighting a bit, right? But what you just did by having this assertive communication was you controlled the narrative.
Yeah.
For both people, like to say, here is why. I'm giving you an answer why, and it's just life circumstance, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's a degree there, Ryan, because I think it's if there's a realization on one person's part that they just are kind of done with the friendship, and they choose then to just kind of slowly ghost away. That's different than both people just really not putting in the effort, and they realize they're just seeing each other less and less, and there's not really this conscious decision that I don't want to be that person's friend anymore, but they just kind of slowly both see each other less and less. So it's kind of a different situation there.
It
Mhm.
is, but we
I
don't
guess you
know.
could call attention to it. You can be like, hey, are we even friends anymore?
There is, but the problem with that is that how do you know the difference between those two? Right? How does anyone
Mm.
know that my friend, you might be assuming that your friend is just drifting apart just like you are, but if you never talk about it, then you never know.
Yeah.
They could be really hurt. They could have their heart broken from your distance. That's all I'm saying. I mean, you're right. I agree with you that there are natural departures that people have, and it's kind of equally fading away. But I think there are a great number of people who, like, my friend faded away, and I don't know what happened, and I wish I would have heard. Did I do something wrong? I mean, that's a big thing that people say, right?
So I've had I have a pocket of friends that we all met kind of in grade 8, and there's, I don't know, 5 or 6 of us. One of these friends, I guess, some people have challenges with her personality, and 2 of those friends have blatantly, like, we have a little WhatsApp group. They have blatantly told her, like, hey, like, you hurt my feelings. I didn't like these things. That's it. Friends off. I don't want to talk to you ever again. And have left, like, the WhatsApp group. They don't speak. They're completely estranged. Like, it was a big old friendship breakup.
Yep.
Yeah. So there are direct messages about friendship breakups as well.
Yeah.
And at least this one friend knows that they're not on talking terms and kind of why. And the other people aren't open to repairing. So that's it. Friendship done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and those are, yeah, certainly where there's the animosity and the you hurt my feelings and you tick me off. Right. Certainly we all hear those stories and maybe have experienced those stories.
Yeah.
That's
Where you
painful in its own right.
to say, you know what, this isn't good for me. So
Yeah.
that leads me to another question of, how do you know when it's time to end a friendship? Like, is it if a friendship is turning toxic? Is it after a series of events? Is it like, what constitutes a friendship breakup?
I feel like all the above there,
Probably.
right? If there's a realization it's toxic, I just talked to a client tonight who has had to tell a friend who she's been glued to at the hip for the past year that, yeah, she's just can't really do it anymore. She's realizing it's not good. And we're kind of gathering that this friend's not going to be responding well to this. But
Yeah.
whether you're unhappy, if you notice you're not really have that desire to hang out with that person, you can maybe feel meh about it. Like you don't really have the urge to check in with them. That could be telling. Like,
So in that circumstance, Joe, do you think it's worth having a conversation to repair the friendship or to work on the friendship? Or do you just say, maybe this friendship isn't for me? right? Like when do you work on it and when do you say, no, I think it's time to end?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it depends also, like you said before, about expectations of what the friendship will be like. Because I have done this with a friend who I don't talk to as much, and they're not putting in the effort as much, and I'm not. And I'm like, I think this is just what our friendships become. And when we know when we have talked about it, because I've called attention to it, like I know we haven't talked, just wanted to, like I do care about you. I think I'm finding I'm not reaching out as much, and then she did the same thing, like just life and everything. But there's this understanding of we're both acknowledging we're not putting as much effort in, but there's that choice to still stay in that friendship, I guess. But so I'm not bothered that I don't talk to her for months because that's just what the friendship is. But then that could bother some people. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is. So, I mean, to your point, Brooke, about like when do you know it's not working for you? I mean, I think we apply some similar things that we would with an intimate relationship or with a job or with a lot of things in life. Like, is the um is the cost vastly outweighing the benefit, right? Are you giving so much and then feeling drained afterwards and you're not really getting much back? Are you um and certainly the signs of that could be the dread and the, you know, the uh and indifference to the person or to the friendship. If you don't feel like you really have much to give to this person, and especially if you start to build up resentment towards that person, I think that's a sign that you might want to take a look at, is this relationship worth salvaging, right? Even with that, I would say, are those feelings because there's something that's unresolved in the relationship, something that hasn't been addressed or processed that needs to be done? Did this person hurt your feelings once and you haven't told them about it? And maybe you need to do some work on that to see if this relationship's worth working through. Maybe you need to tell them what's bothering you, right?
Exactly, because that's also another way to deepen a friendship.
Yeah.
Is if
Yes.
are things that bother you about the other person, or to bring that up and actually repair and move forward and have those assertive community like conversations is very important in a deeper relationship.
One one of my closest friendships, um that's his whole friendship strategy, I think. And he kind of knows that and would laugh about it too if he happens to be listening. But like, that's his whole, he wants to like do a little injury, be a little obnoxious or a little rude, or push it a little too hard. And then we have to repair that, right? We have to like have a process, talk about it and repair and apologize and I forgive and all that stuff. And that's the closeness, and that's what deepens the friendship, right? We even talk about that dynamic. Like, I'm going to come in kind of punch you, and then we got to deal with that, and then that's kind of how we connect. And it can be a lot of work at times, but I think that's more common than you might think.
Yeah.
I'm going to step on your toe, see if you can take it, see if we can still handle this in this relationship and repair from it, and then we're actually on a deeper level.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, friendships come in all shapes and sizes, right?
Yeah, big time. It's an interesting point though, is yeah, there will be challenges and disagreements that arise within friendships. We're coming out of still in a very polarizing time. A lot of friendships and families have been impacted by different viewpoints when it comes to the COVID pandemic or politically what's going on, especially down south your way. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are having tough times communicating and connecting with long-term friends. So I think there's something to be said there about trying to hash it out and come up with a common ground, or maybe just agreeing not to delve into certain topics, right? Because I think that really can strengthen that connection. I think it has to be an attitude of growth there. And I think both people have to want to work towards that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
There's also situations where the friendship becomes toxic. Maybe this is a friend that you do, you're out there doing things you shouldn't be doing, or the influence isn't the best. You feed off each other's energy and maybe destructive ways, right?
Or codependency.
Codependency. We talked about that at some point. So
Yeah.
Or an exploitive friendship.
yeah,
That happens a lot too. A giver and a taker, and the taker takes way too much and turns kind of exploitive.
Yeah, manipulation.
Or manipulation.
There's a lot of things to be aware of there, where it's probably important to address that or disengage from it, and which is difficult though, because often those people want that friendship to work, right?
Yeah.
They have a hard time maybe seeing that or wanting to stop that or end that, but
I was working with a client a couple years back who is a very charismatic person, has a lot of friends. A lot of people are sort of drawn to this person for friendship, just because he's very outgoing and has a lot of wisdom. And anyway, great guy, but people kind of flock to him like a bee to honey, and he would talk about how sometimes new people would say, "Hey, I really appreciate you. I really value you. I really want to get close to you and get to know you better as a friend." And he got to a point where his friend list was so large, really, at that point, he had to develop a little speech for them sometimes to be able to say, like, "Hey, look, I think you're great. This is I really appreciate this, but my friendship calendar is really just too full, and I'm not going to be able to do that with you.
yeah,
But I know that you're a great person, and you're going to be able to find other friends elsewhere, And I've really respected that, because he essentially just kind of letting them down before making promises that he's not able to deliver later on.
yeah.
He knows his limits, he knows his boundaries, and he's able to say, "Look, I'm not going to be able to give you what you're looking for. I still value you and think you're cool, but I just can't. I can't go there."
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if I were to address that, I may say I'm just sorry, I'm just so busy, I'm swamped, right? I may not get into specific details about how I only have amount of time for certain friends. It might be a combination of reasons why. Um, I wouldn't want someone to think of, oh, so you're saying that person is a better friend than me, or more, they want to hang out with them and not me, that kind of thing. But
I think this guy has a way of saying it, in a way of saying, like, my friendship card is full. Like, I can't give any more, and I don't need any more. So it's not a personal thing. It's just I don't have anything left.
it's true. I know we're part of the Rotary Club, and we meet amazing people all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I want to spend more time with this person. They're like, oh wait, we don't have any time to spend with this person.
Yeah.
Say, hey, let's go out for a drink. And then you're like, I don't think
Like
that's
in
actually
3
going to
months.
happen.
Like,
Yeah.
when are you gonna do it?
And then, but when you say that, oh, we should meet up, and then if you can't deliver, that's not a good situation either, right?
Yeah.
So it is a weird kind of dance there when you're meeting some people who share the same kind of values and interests, and they're just fun people to be around, right?
Right. Right. There are a lot of great people in this world. Love to get to know. Can't get to know them all.
No.
Yeah,
Not
and
enough time of the day.
that's where if you have a friendship, and maybe this was someone who you saw and connected with on a regular basis, but for whatever reason, circumstances are shifting, and maybe you're trying to figure out why that is, and you're putting the
Mhm.
effort in, and someone else isn't really reciprocating that, then it might be a sign that you may have to, instead of enhancing that existing connection, trying to create new opportunities to connect with someone new.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I take that personally. It is what it is, and it's probably a lot going on there that you may not be privy to, or I don't know. But there's some steps you can take there, and then you may just have to say, you know what, I'm gonna have to shift.
And I guess that's what I'm saying is I think that you're right, Chris, and I think that a lot of people can read those signs and and understand those signs of like, oh, I've made 3 invitations and he's been busy every time. Maybe that means that he's not so in, all of that. And I know a lot of people can read those signs pretty well. But not everyone can. And I guess that's why I say, gosh, I wish there was another way for people to softly let someone else down in an explicit way so that they're not relying on signs that are a bit ambiguous,
Yeah, I know, I agree. If the person could own it at least and saying, "Hey, I
Yeah.
appreciate you reaching out to me. I'm sorry I'm not able to meet up or spend much time with you, due to whatever circumstance that might be." But just owning that, not leaving the person hanging.
Mhm.
I think that's the unfortunate part. Right?
So if any listeners have any ideas on how to do that, please send me a handwritten postcard to my address, my home address, because we don't really have any email or any other way to contact us online. And let me know how we can,
Send a
address
picture.
it. Send it by pigeon. Actually, I'll give you my fax number. You can fax me with that information.
Send you a page.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's get
So
to the personal part, Brooke.
that's what I was just thinking. So how did we become friends? How did that happen?
You go first. You guys started first.
Well,
What year was it? Well, the year was 2000 and
for our friendship or with my
Yeah. No,
Oh.
you guys.
No, but the question. Oh, I thought the question was about the 4 of us.
I think
Oh,
the
okay.
4 of us.
Not about
Yeah,
us individually. Okay.
So you, Brooke and Chris, you met Ryan in DC. I came in a year or 2 later. So
that's the story.
Yeah. We must in 2010, I guess.
Is it 2010? Yeah, I guess so. 'cause I
11,
just
11, 11, 11.
Yeah.
2011.
2011. Yep.
And that was the first year we met. And then it was just fun to hang out. And
Yeah, so we went down there to this conference. We heard about this conference in DC. I had just finished my master's. You're done. We're working together at private practice, and went down to this conference, sporting some Canadian tracksuit tops.
did we have those year 1?
Yeah, I think they're retro.
I thought it was year 2. Anyway,
Because I think
Went
isn't that
down.
what Ryan? We met him outside the lobby bar in this hotel. I thought you commented on us being
I did.
Canadian or something.
I
yeah.
did. So it
Yeah.
was interesting because we were all there for the first time, right? This was your first year there?
Yeah.
And it was my first year there because I just started writing for the magazine, Psychotherapy Networker, and had flown in that day earlier and was on West Coast time. We were all on West Coast time. We were in DC. And so we were up late and there weren't many other people up. It was like 11:30 or something at night. I just come from the like the magazine has this little reception thing. So I was hanging with them and I'm like, all right, I'm not tired yet. So I'm gonna go and see what's happening down in the lobby. And I saw you guys and I was like, I always have enjoyed Canadians. So I was like, hey, you guys are Canadian. How you doing? And you guys were so friendly and warm, and we just sat and had a great conversation for a long time about Canada America relations.
Yeah.
I think,
And then
then we
what's
met up the next night. I think, right?
probably.
I think we made loose
Yeah.
plans. Yeah, we'll see you around tomorrow. And
Yeah. Then you guys became like the people I knew at the conference because I didn't know any other like conference goers there. I knew some of the staff, but I didn't know any other therapists there. So
Exactly.
we met up at different workshops or saw each other walking around the halls and then went to like the evening talks and that sort of thing, sat together.
Yeah. And then I don't think contact info was shared at that point. I don't think. And then the next year we saw you there again, obviously. And I think at that then we went off-site for lunch maybe that year together.
Yeah. We deepened the friendship a little bit. Let's take this out of the context into something a little deeper. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went for some happy hours and things and hummus.
Had some
lunch,
tomato soup, I think. Yeah.
and tomato soup. And then we must have exchanged contact info that year.
Yeah.
And after the first year, I sent you a thank you card, like a nice to meet you card with a picture we had all taken outside of the lobby bar.
That's right. Yeah.
Potentially, was that with the can of soup or was that just the picture?
Probably just a picture.
Just a picture, yeah.
Remember
I think
that?
we sent
Yes.
one at Don
It was
Eichenbaum as
Don
well.
Eichenbaum. But we had taken, my friend Teo was there as well.
Yeah.
And back at that time, we didn't really have cameras on our phones. Or
Yeah.
so I actually had a camera and I developed the pictures. And then back in the day, I would have extra pictures and send it to everyone who was in the picture got a copy. And so I had like found Ryan's work address, obviously, because he had a website, and mailed him a picture saying nice to meet you and look forward to seeing you next year and stuff.
Yeah. And that, yeah, it's that sort of thing, that extra little gesture, that little out of the norm gesture, like a note and a card or something like that that says, "Hey, I'm thinking about you," even though you're not sitting right in front of me. That object constancy piece, right?
Exactly. It broke the boundary of the conference. Like I know you at the conference, but now I'm actually in your office, even though I'm not there, right? And then the following year, I think we took it to these happy hours and got to know each other better. And then we must have exchanged contact information for the following year to find out if we were attending or not, and where we were, what days we were coming in. And then
I remember sharing with you guys things about like, hey, I want to start this thing called National Psychotherapy Day. And hey, I've got this idea about, this head check thing. These other things that we were sharing more things about our lives outside the conference, which was really cool too. And then we're like, yeah, see you next time. And then I think it was really.
And then Joanna.
Oh yeah, when Joanna came, like in the third year.
No, I came in your year 5, and I was my first year, 2015.
Whoa!
I have a picture. Yeah, I have a picture of our badges, and there's the 5 stickers on Chris and Brooks badges, and I had 1. So that was 2015.
It was
wow.
like an email account. So
I came into the picture.
We were sending emails back and forth about, we really want to write that book, the superhero book.
Yes.
Yeah. And
we made
you said you would provide us some accountability for it.
With some hummus.
So in 2012, we had an email thread there about
wow,
helping us out with that.
Yeah. Jeez.
Still work in progress.
Still work in progress, but then I think it was really, I mean, yes, we chatted here and there, but it was really when Chris started to crank up his idea for the mental health boot camp that then it was like, all right, now we're gonna get on phone calls or video calls, and then I started flying up to see you guys, and you flew down here for the Evolution and Psychotherapy Conference. Like once you start traveling to visit people, I think you're in a next level of friendship, right? Like you're.
Yeah.
At that time, like you said, we had conversations, FaceTimes or phone calls, or we had been communicating outside of the conference. Then you had come up a few times to present at our conferences through work. You did one in Coquitlam and one in Whistler, right?
Right.
You were one of the Whistler ones, yeah. So that as well. And at that time, we were still seeing you in March for the conference. Like we would see you in person there as well.
That's right. I think I came up in 2014 or 15 for the Coquitlam one.
Yeah.
On forgiveness, and then went to Whistler for the termination. Yeah. So we just had that extra bond there too. And I think to backtrack a little bit, I think a lot of times something we didn't really mention is that that a lot of friendships are based on something, right? I mean, it can be based on your your own personal stories and that sort of thing, shared interests. For us, a lot of what our friendship is based on is psychotherapy and mental health, and trying to build businesses together or build projects together. And we all have a shared interest in these things, and so we're good partners when it comes to kind of doing these things together. If you find people who really don't share any interests with one another, it's going to be hard to form a real friendship, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did at one point, then the interests kind of shift and change.
Yeah.
The focus, I
Yeah.
guess.
It's interesting. I remember moments there in DC because proximity and seeing each other and the mutual interest, but there's a few conversations that we'd have, and I think there's a vulnerability piece. Like Ryan, you'd ask about. I still remember it. It's like if we were all characters in The Wizard of Oz, and you gave us all, you assigned us to different characters, and we kind of went. We'd go out for these lunches or dinners, and there'd be like deeper kind of conversations, which were cool. And then I think there's one year where you were really nervous about having to introduce a speaker, I think, and you're like, can you guys, like, we sat and listened to you, and there's like this vulnerability piece you shared with us and got us to see your nerves a bit, and you asked us for our feedback, and it was very, I think those were little key moments where things went deeper for me anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's all part of it. Lots of different little factors and ingredients.
Yeah, and a lot of fun together. That board game place. So there's a bar there where it's a board game bar. And so we would go and play board games and things. And that was always a lot of fun too, because you're getting to know the person in a different way. It's not an intellectual way. It's just fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes. We were at the boardroom, I think it was called. And we were playing, Cards Against Humanity with one another. And
you get to know each other's humor pretty good there.
We really did. It was fun. Great.
For sure.
Yeah.
But our project definitely helped. We're connecting weekly.
Yeah, and that's when the Connecting Weekly started.
Yeah, which is takes it up a notch too. Because usually we catch up for the first 49 minutes and then we talk about project related things.
Right. Yeah. Well, I just want to tell you guys that as far as our friendship goes, I think I've had enough. I think I'm done. I don't think I want any more. I have other people vying for these spots. I'm going to replace you with some other people.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for your honesty.
Let's get to 2 podcasts though. Is that possible?
No, he's out.
Oh, he's out? That's it. All right.
No, I'm kidding, of course. That's my using humor to deflect vulnerability. No, I think it's...
I'll send you a goodbye card in the mail.
That's it.
And a mushroom soup.
And a can of mushroom soup instead of tomato soup.
No, I think the friendship that we have is really cool, and it has always been very vibrant and encouraging and warm, and I think it's been such a pleasure to do this with you guys for 98 episodes. But we'll get to that in 100. We'll get to the sappy stuff later.
For sure.
Cool. There we go.
There we go. Did we address the mail bush issue, do you think?
I think so.
It's a great topic.
Yeah, it was visit it. I did listen to our entire friendship podcast earlier today.
Oh, wow.
Just to make sure that the questions weren't totally overlapping. But we talked more about how to make friends, how to initiate the friendship, more than how to maintain the friendship or how to end a friendship and social contracts of friendship. So I think we did good.
That's great.
For that at all. So
Episode 9.
9. It's a long time. Okay. Cool.
A long time ago. Okay. Well, then I guess we'll wrap up for tonight. Good night, friends. See you at the next podcast.
Indeed.
And that's it for tonight. Like and subscribe. Stitcher, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Podbean.
Oh, you said that in a different order.
I did.
Did you say Stitcher?
Yeah.
Stitcher, right?
Oh, yeah.
Send me a postcard if you have any questions. And otherwise, have a great week. And good night, everybody. Good night.
Thanks. Bye now.
Bye.